Good morning. Buenos dias. I'm working on my Spanish. I'll get back to you guys later on that one. But anyway, yeah. So you're probably wondering while you're watching this, if you followed me for a long time or you know me from IRL, like what is this guy posting about right now that warrants his face on my feed? Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not the usual guy to post, okay? Because I'm not really, like, for a long time, I kind of stayed off social media. I don't really talk about my life. I don't talk about, I don't really share a lot of things. And in the beginning, years ago, it was more so just out of the, like, it was more so out of the sense that I just didn't really feel comfortable doing it, right? But now with some changes and stuff, I actually look at it through a different lens. I'm able to share things with people that actually help them, because it took me a long time to really accept the medium. And not only that, that I got a lot of things to share. So anyway, so this morning I'm making this video because I'm talking about talking to people who are specifically dealing with the things of life. I mean, it's not necessarily, it doesn't always have to be struggle, right? It could just be decisions or daily thoughts, really, with the way you look at things. Because I figure I had an urge to share this. So the first point is this, is that life is a lot more complicated than we actually perceive it to be, right? Most people acknowledge this, and they know it, intellectually, and they just kind of let it go, but then, with that knowledge, what do we do with it? Well, it's like most people, they still get stressed out about life decisions, and whether or not they should be doing things, or they get stuck in these traps, right? And we could go on all into the details of where your thinking is and the way you look at yourself and stuff, but that's not what this video is about today. When it comes down to it, a lot of us, for me, for example, I always looked at people who had the ability to make clear-cut decisions in 2 seconds, right, as superhuman, right? And I realize now that's not necessarily a superhuman power, it's just more so a cultivated skill, right? And I used to, I have that skill sometimes. Well, most of the time when it's in a professional setting, I'm able to, clear cut and dry things pretty fast. But when I look at my personal life and the experiences that I've had, making decisions is hard, man. It can be really hard, for some of us at least, and that stems from a whole plethora of things. But I think to really, to really kind of get to the core of that issue is specifically a lot of people, they live day in and day out with regrets, with qualms with themselves. A lot of us will kick ourselves in the butt for the decisions that we decided to make, right, in the past. And that's okay. We do that naturally, but then there's the part of it where we get really stuck, and a lot of people get stuck on those decisions that they've made. And this isn't geared towards people that are struggling, they can be, but it's everybody does this. I would say so, and you could be living in $1 million mansion, or you could be living a life of luxury somewhere, or just at a normal house eating dinner with your family. And then you just think about that one thing that was cringe back in 2015 that you said, or whatever, and it just brings back these these terrible feelings. And most people are able to just kind of push it down, put it into a garbage can, and kind of leave it there, right? But the problem is where does it all go and when you don't take it out, right? But that's why I say with this first point is that life's a lot more complicated and more, I guess you could say, magical than we can perceive it to be, right? Because the people that make those decisions, right, that are pretty clear cut and dry, they do it and they move on and they go on to the next canvas, right? But then there's those of us who think a lot deeper than like a lot deeper than the surface level, you know. And we like to stare at that canvas, and we'll take a step back, we'll look at it, think about it, you know, we'll study the ways like the brush strokes were, and the the colors that were put onto there and mixed, and was it acrylic or whatever. We'll ask all sorts of questions, right? And sometimes that's just not enough for us. And that's kind of like the way we look at our past and the way we look at the things that have happened to us, right? We'll look at the canvas and we'll constantly study it. We'll look it over and over again. And the crux of the matter is, like, you stare at this thing like it's the predictor of the next painting. You know, our lives are a lot more complicated than a painting, right? In fact, it's a non-static painting. It's alive, all right, just as much as we are, and we're able to change things around us, right? And we're able to move things and whatnot, but most importantly, we're able to move ourselves, right? And able to change the way we perceive things. And when it comes down to the painting that we look at in front of us, which is we call life, it's constantly moving. It's like a Harry Potter scene, you know. It changes, and the problem is that we accept that to be the truest reality there is, right? It is in the now, but it will not always be. You know, and because we think it always will be, we make it so, and we kind of trick ourselves into thinking that, you know, this is the way the rest of the paintings that we ever make are always going to be. And that's how people get stuck, you know. And the problem with that is obviously they get stuck. So I would implore people to start looking at the complexity of life and really how beautiful it is, and appreciate it for what it is, which is this work of God that we don't know the end of, right? And because of the fact that we don't know the end, it should give us comfort, because nothing God makes is ugly. So, next point, I'll try to keep these ones short, because, you know, if I could work my iPhone or my Apple Watch here, I should have brought a like index card or something, but it's okay. So, second one, the beauty of God's creation is truly culminated in you, your body, mind, and soul. So a lot of people struggle with their self-image and the way that they think about themselves, and a lot of that stems from the fact that we look at the canvas and we see the things that have gone on. It's almost like the mural, right? Like, you know, people have painted this picture before with words. That the beginning of the mural seems like, you know, really beautiful, it's your birth or whatever, or it could be horrible, you know, and they find themselves going through things and everything, but then they think that because the first part of it was like that, you know, it's got to be like the rest, right? It's, you know, because that's just the way our human brains work. But and then that creates a thought process within a person, right, where they think that, like, life is always going to be complicated for me, things are always going to be ugly, I'm always going to be this or whatever, right? Just insert negative self-thought talk, you know, that you could think of, because I'm pretty sure you can think of plenty, right? So, but really what we should do, like with the canvas idea, right, is really look at the beauty of it. And when we look at its beauty, we can also look at ourselves and the beauty that God, whether you call it God, the universe, whatever, right, endowed us with in our creation. You are the crown jewel of it all right? You are literally like, you're the culmination of his life's work. So, and it's so easy for us to not believe that because of the fact that we see things in the realm of illusion, if you will, right in front of us that don't. Good morning. It's so easy to see that way, all right? Because of the realm of illusion that we live in, okay, where we think because we're not this or not that, or we don't make enough money, or like whatever, right? Like in the current state of the picture or the canvas, we think that we don't deserve anything, and we don't. We get into all these. We could get on the negative self-talk topics, but point is you should really look in the mirror sometime, friend, because the things that you are capable of doing, sometimes you are only capable of doing. Nobody else out of the 8 point something billion people on planet Earth, okay? There's only one you. And that's beautiful. You should appreciate that for all it's worth, okay? And I know that sounds like cliche, like positive psychology or whatever, but it's the fact that like you are a part of this canvas just as much as you are an observer of it. And the fact that you are a part of the canvas and the canvas is alive and you are too, means that you have all the more reason to be thankful every day for the canvas, or in other words, your life and the way you look at yourself and the way you are. For me personally, I grew up, so I it's hard to tell, but I'm 5'2", right? I'm 5'2". That's what my doctor tells me anyways. Some people say otherwise, but I wasn't born with like the tallest genetics, right? Obviously. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people over the years would ask me like, does that bother you, or like this and that, and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, in kindergarten, like it used to bother me that I was smaller than everybody, and then in elementary school maybe, but then after that it's like, you kind of accept you come to accept who you are and what you are and what you have, and ever since then it doesn't really bother me anymore, right? And I've come to accept that part of the canvas, okay? Because, and what am I saying? Well, you just said that everything changes, right? Yes, everything changes. And there's some things that stay the same, quote unquote, but in reality they don't, and we can get into that. But the point is, and I guess you could say mentally, it never stayed the same for me, because I've accepted that I am what I am. And the work of God, the universe, or whatever you want to call it, okay, is in me. And with that, like, there is no wrong. Like, sure, we have our little quirks or whatever, or like you might have a scar here, or, go figure, whatever it is, man. Like, we can all find something to complain about, but it's the beauty of it is like you look at yourself and you accept who you are, you accept what you have, and you look at it as the work of God, right? Because I look at the way, it took me a long time, not to accept the height thing, but more so to accept myself, right? And the thoughts that I have and the way I look at things and the perspectives that I've been able to create through the experiences of this canvas, right? And not only that, sharing experiences with others. So you know, you think about that in a very think about that in a very sobering way when you come to it, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, you know what, I am what I am, right? And that doesn't mean you have to accept being a terrible person. That's different. Like, you know, the choices we make are obviously ours and our own, but it's like, you know, as far as everything else goes, your personality, your love, the way you are as a person, you know. And I'm not talking about like the things that like fear and everything, but like the, you know, your personality, like, you know, like all that, that's you, and that's beautiful, and you should accept that. So, and the last thing is that everything works out for good. So it kind of brings us back to the first point, right? The first point being, you don't, like, a lot of people that I've met, because I've done a lot of peer counseling in my day, let's just put it that way, and a lot of people I've met think because because they're going through something right now, or they struggle with their self-image, or they lack confidence, whatever, right? It could be a ton of things, right? But all problems. They look at it, right, and they think that the current circumstances are going to cascade into this thing and this thing, and then eventually they get stuck in this stinking thinking cycle. And when in reality, if you were to look at it from like 10,000 feet, and it's been said a million times by other people, like, oh, this is the best thing that happened to me, or whatever, right? And, you know, some people, like, I don't know about you, but I've met some people that struggle, like, legitimately have some problems, you know what I mean? But they're still able to live life to the fullest with it. Like, one of my, you know, somebody I know who's paralyzed, like half his body is paralyzed. He doesn't get to do the things everyone else does on a daily basis. In fact, he has to struggle every day to get up out of bed, work out, so one side of his body's strong enough, and live his life and go to work and do all the things we do. And he's still happy. And it's because he was able to see that everything works out for good. Everything. Every single thing. And it's not necessarily because, like, you know, oh, you should think about it in a positive way. No, I'm saying, like, objectively speaking, everything works out for good, right? Like, you've always heard the idea, like, good always wins in the end, this and that. And, you know, oh, what about this time? Or what about that time? And this and that. That was then, this is now, right? And you look at it, it goes back to the idea of the realm of illusion that we live in. This realm of illusion, you'll see things happen in front of you that aren't savory. You'll experience things that aren't good, and they'll make you question whether or not God really cares about you, or like life can be a good thing, or people are inherently, you'll get thoughts like people are inherently evil or whatever, right? But when you take yourself out of that moment in time and you look at the big picture of your life and the things that are going to that are possibly going to happen, and then you bring yourself back to the present, you know, you realize that everything works out for good. And you may not know it now, you may not see it now, but it's coming. It's coming. Anyways, guys, I made it back to my truck. So that's my video for today. I think I'm going to upload every Sunday. Let me know in the comments how what you think about it. Probably do a lot better quality of video recordings and stuff like that. But yeah, I think this is the beginnings of a beautiful friendship.